You wouldn't want to take him on at a dad's race at Sports Day, would you?
Probably get injured.
Hello and welcome once again to the First4LCFC podcast with myself, Jamie Thorpe, and the other original band members, Christian Mosen and Edmund Noon. How are you both?
Edmund today, not Edmund.
Yeah, Edmund. He's changed
thought
his
you were
name.
going to need to have a cough midway through that introduction. I thought
Very Sean Dyche, that was.
I'm just trying to add a gravelly aspect to my personality. Need a bit more grit. You know what I mean? Is it working? No.
Oh, it's very handsome.
Also, Ed, you will be referred to by every other name other than your actual name going forward. I'll try and mix it up if I can. But right, we might as well get stuck into this because, as usual, this is the show where we're going to have a look at all of the Leicester City goings on. Been a typically boring week as a Leicester fan, obviously, 2 last-minute goals in the consecutive games, 1 for, 1 against, but all is rosy. Leicester still sit precariously at the top of the Europa League group and 4th in the Premier League, which is not bad at all. But look, let's start with the Sheffield United game, fresh in your memory. Hopefully, both of you watched it. I'm going to guess that you did. Chris, I'm sure you were there with the notepad, so you're probably the man to ask. Sum up that performance. Do you think we deserved it?
The man with a notepad. That's
creepy.
Yeah, that's just an interesting introduction, sure. But there wasn't many notes taken, really, I feel, because I don't know, it just felt like a bit of a flat performance. Ultimately, we expected probably a difficult game, albeit this was against a team that's bottom of the league. But looking at the team, didn't. I think you said that, Jamie. But that was, we stuck in it. We stuck in the game, and obviously got a reward right at the end. But even then, when Vardy was put through on goal, normally I'd be so confident, but I just felt like, is this just going to be one of those games where even Vardy can't finish a 1-on-1? I don't know. We should be breaking these teams down and beating them convincingly. Ultimately, Sheffield United don't really have a midfield, like player for player. We should be, playing them off the park. And the fact that we got into a game with them, and the goal we conceded was obviously sloppy. It's something that any Premier League team, a cheap header like that. There's stuff to work on, but ultimately, a lot of people say that to take 3 points from a game like that is what you need to do to be up there by the end of the season. So, there's positives to be taken. Obviously, Maddison getting his assist. Obviously, a keen listener to the podcast after I absolutely lamented him last week. I feel like his post-match interview was definitely directed at me.
He actually specifically mentioned past success rate, which I know you both maybe Googled during the last podcast.
It was definitely you who searched it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely was.
Oh, right. Just making sure you aren't pointing fingers at the wrong person.
No. I don't think Chris should be getting the blame for this. I think it's my fault, to be fair. So I'll just take this moment to say, hi, James. Glad you're listening. We're very sorry. Right, glad that we got that bit out of the way. But no, Chris, I actually, weirdly, normally if Vardy gets played through 1-on-1, I'm naturally pessimistic because I'm a Leicester fan, but I had no doubt he was going to score this time. You just knew it, didn't he? He was waiting for that moment all game, and it was a brilliant finish. I love the celebration as well, even if some weirdos on Twitter have made it into some sort of homophobic thing. But so, Ed, in terms of the rest of the game, we did line up 5 at the back again, something which we moaned about before, and I thought it was too negative myself at the time. Do you think that the shape worked, or did we win in spite of the shape?
I'd say we won in spite of the shape. There's no two ways about it. We're actually in a bit of a rut at the minute, I'd say. Like that, we haven't won in our last 4 games before this, and then against the worst team in the league, who have now lost 10 out of their 11 matches. They're hardly on form, and we got a last-minute winner. So, going there, it definitely wasn't a great performance, but a win's a win, and hopefully it'll kick-start things. But I did think midway through the match, it's like, I don't even know if we're changing this formation because that's what we're going to use going forwards. I think it's just because, they don't rely on Mendy. There's no confidence in it. And I know you guys have all said he's been brilliant this season, but I think we've got an extra centre-back in because he's just not as commanding in defensively as Ndidi is. And just one thing sparked my mind on this idea in the Sheffield United game. They were having they had a few corners, and Mendy was like trying to clear it on the edge of the box after the first header clear. And every time he either didn't bother jumping and competing with Sheffield United players, or he tried but he didn't even come close to winning the header. And it's just like, it's not for any fault of his own, but it's just like those little things. He's obviously a small man, a bit like you, Jamie. But
he's a very small man.
But I was just thinking, like, if Ndidi was there, then everyone behind him's going to have that extra confidence that he can.
I'd argue that Kante wasn't the tallest man.
Well, he wasn't, but then we had Huth and Morgan, who are quite large men, I'm sure, behind him. So I don't know. I was just thinking, like, when Ndidi came on, I just felt a lot more confident. And I think when with a really bad example of when this sort of thing, I do think there is a psychological aspect to this. I think how useless Chelsea were when they have Kepa in goal. I know it's a different position, but like their defence were making all these stupid errors as well. And I think it's because they're all on edge because they don't trust the person behind him.
I don't know about this argument. You're basing it on the fact that Mendy is struggling to compete for headers on the second ball from a corner. I think it's his teammates or management or fans will see the work that he does when the ball's on the ground.
We have been doing well at defending corners recently.
Is that sarcastic?
Oh no, I'm just saying. I genuinely think these little like 5% things that go in favour of another person, I think they all add up. And like,
Do you honestly think that the team feels that negatively about Mendy?
No, I think that when not necessarily negatively about him, but so positively about Ndidi, that there is a difference there. There's a difference that, like, in Mendy might be a real solid player, like 6 out of 10 on everything, and he's been really good since he came in. And it's not that that's bad. It's just that if Ndidi comes in and he's an 8 out of 10 in everything, the confidence just rises, not because of we were at a low point to start off with, but because it gets better, because he's bigger, he's more combative, if that's the right word is. And I just felt that when he was on. I think this really emphasised the point that, like, you know, Ndidi, he doesn't do all the great skills, gets the goal, but he can be the starting point for these. You know, even from a corner, if he was there challenging for it on the edge of the box, we would be much more likely to at least retain possession, if not perhaps start a counter-attack if he was there over Mendy, where 9 times out of 10, unless the ball drops right to his foot, he's not going to win it aerially against another team, especially against a team like Sheffield United, who were just a lot of big players.
I mean, you've definitely
just a thought I had. It may not be
Mendy for his size. Hopefully, he doesn't listen because he'll get very.
Well, bonjour, Nampalese, if it is listening.
I mean, just to slightly disagree with you. I mean, that I thought he was particularly good yesterday. Believe it or not. I actually thought he was very, very tidy. I thought he hassled them pretty well in defence. I know you say he didn't make that many tackles, but I don't think any of the other less players made more than him. And he kept the ball ever so well. You're right, he's perhaps not the most dynamic going forward, but they tried to press him time and time again and got nowhere near him. And I think he does give a certain confidence when he's on the ball. I never feel like he's going to give it away dangerously, if that makes sense.
Don't call him the sheepdog for no reason.
You know, I don't want him because of what he does, like, on the ball, though. I think in that position, I think that's why we're playing 3 at the back, because we don't have a proper. It's not even old school because it's a semi-newish position, I guess, anyway. But like an old school defensive mid who's not really going to offer great amounts in attack, but he's just a solid hand defensively. And I also think attacking wise, having him, because he's not as good defensively as Mendy, I would suspect that Rodgers is in the ear of Tielemans and maybe even Maddison a little bit more to consider these defensive aspects of their game more so than they would if Ndidi was in, where they may get more license to roam in those instances. And thus, I'd argue Ndidi may not just be a better defensive player, but may also give greater scope to our attacking players to express themselves more.
I just think that Rodgers is playing five at the back because it's a fashionable formation, which everyone in the Premier League seems to be getting dragged into, if not European football. And also, I mean, he was trying five at the back when Ndidi was still fit.
I mean, I agree, Ed, that I think Ndidi will be the one to come in. I think he is a better player in that position than Mendy. I definitely don't disagree. I just don't think Mendy played that bad. It was
just one observation that was on the edge of the box, and then I was just thinking, like, if Ndidi was on, things would have been different in this instance. And then I guess once you've got that one thing in your mind, like everything that he does that's even like 1% out, you start thinking, But I would argue, and I guess this is just another prediction we can all make, like I genuinely think when Ricardo's back, we're going to go straight back to a back four.
Yes, I mean,
and Albrighton, like, obviously, since they've come to the club, have been absolutely amazing and has helped to propel us to this lofty position we are now, which even like 5 or 6 years ago we couldn't dream of. But like right now, they aren't sort of propelling us forward anymore, are they?
No, and unfortunately we're going to have to wait for a few more weeks because Ricardo obviously picked up another injury in the loss away in the Ukraine, which we'll talk about, which is a shame. But I think you're right. That's probably the shape they're looking to move to. I did Google it just out of interest to see how tall Mendy was, and he's even shorter than I am, which really is saying something. No, really, honestly, I know. I'm as surprised as you are. But moving on to attacking influence. Obviously, we discussed Maddison, like we've said, and he listened. He's taken it on board. So you're welcome. You can thank us for the fact that we won. He popped up with a crucial ball, perfectly weighted for Vardy. Really showed his quality. One thing that did pop up there, Chris, after the game was that is the 56th chance he's created since last assist. So do you think perhaps we've been a bit harsh on him because, we talked about the fact he has gone so long without an assist, or do you think we should be pointing the finger at some of the other Leicester players rather than him?
Well, I mean, it's all well and good creating 56 chances. Are you able to tell me how many of those chances were converted?
No, none.
Oh, none? Well, I don't know. It's a bit of a precarious stat to give then, isn't it? I mean, it's, without analysing all these balls, I can only argue that what defines a chance for one, does that mean a shot on target or, shot at goal? You put me on the spot. It's a bit of a vague one for me. If anything, then you're suggesting that our finishing isn't good enough, and that obviously just passes the buck to a different area of the pitch further on. For me, again, obviously without analysing all these chances, it just suggests it's a bit of a vague statistic. And I don't know, it'd be interesting to compare how many chances someone like De Bruyne creates, and see how many of them are converted, because you'd argue that there's not many better finishers in the league than Jamie Vardy, and I'm presuming that a lot of these chances fell to Vardy. So where's it going wrong? I was critical of James Maddison last week, and I guess elements of that criticism remain. I was very frustrated with his set pieces yesterday, for example. Like, I think there was 2 corners back to back that got cleared at the near post. There was that ridiculous free kick. Well, you call it ridiculous. Obviously, if it comes off, you get all the plaudits. But the fact it didn't go on target, it's just a frustration, isn't it, for the team? You get all the players up from the back, and someone does that. I mean, he's certainly not short of confidence, as he suggested in his post-match interview. But there's obviously frustration within him for him to sort of vent these emotions, which is rare. And also refreshing for a professional to be as honest as that in a post-match interview. But 56 chances created and no goals doesn't add up to me when you got someone as potent as Vardy on the end of them.
Do you want to know can I just add to the stats before you go on?
I wonder if you've got the same one in front of you that I have. Go on, you go ahead.
Well, I just went on the Premier League website and about the, you're discussing chances created. I'm just looking at the big chances created. It says Maddison's created 1 this season. Top of the pile is Under. On 3.
Yeah, so that's drilling right down if Under's only made 3. I mean, who's top? Have you got the highest in the league there?
Yeah, 1 sec. All clubs. Highest in the league is Harry Kane on 9. If you want a more equal comparison, you're looking at Grealish is on 7, Trezeguet is on 5, Che Adams 4, etc. So
no, it certainly stats up. I mean, because I had a look at the chances created stat for last season. So De Bruyne did top it on 136. Grealish got 91. So Maddison created 79 last season, but De Bruyne has finished the season with 19 assists, and Maddison's not even made it onto the list there. So I think there's maybe an element of both. I think Harvey Barnes ended up with more assists than Maddison last season for Leicester. So I don't know. I think it's an element of both, to be honest. I think that he's rightly criticised, like you said, this year, 1 big chance made, Ed, but I think he's being overly criticised is my point. There's a bit of a mitigation there, isn't there? I mean, I thought like you said, Chris, his interview was very, very interesting. It was nice to see him be so refreshing and be quite honest. No media training, none of that. He just sort of came out and said it how it is. Clearly buzzing as well, which is brilliant. But it's been, I don't know. I think he's going to come good. I think he's getting back to his best. So let's give him a little bit more time. But a player that did come in, and we're talking about whether or not he took his chances, Jose Perez, obviously a bit of a surprising name on the team sheet. What did you make of him, Chris? Do you think he took his chance?
Well, obviously we always do our little predictions pre-match. I just fancied him. He was overdue a goal, so I got my first goal scorer correct, which is small win. But in terms of him, they were saying on the radio commentary, because I was sort of flicking in between the two, that he's come back from being sidelined looking sharper than what he had done before. And that's the thing with him, and that's what Newcastle fans said about him, isn't it? That he's very patchy, isn't he? He can go missing as he did for us. I felt like he was just literally, we were carrying him for maybe 10 games towards the last season, and then he pops up with a goal, and I won't be surprised if he scores maybe another couple before Christmas. But it's just whether he can, just like the rest of the squad, get some form of consistency to merit his starting place. I'm not sure we're in agreement even where his best position on the pitch is, to be fair. He seems to be at his best, in my opinion, when he's given a bit more creative freedom and he can sort of pop up in spaces. But again, how many sort of luxury, I won't even class him as a luxury player, but obviously you've got someone like Maddison or Tielemans who float around. I guess he has to be a bit more rigid. But, I mean, to get a goal in a victory, obviously, for me, you can't get much better than that. It's just, like I say, for me, it's consistency. He needs to just put that performance in, week out, and add goals to his game fundamentally as an attacking player.
Yeah, I mean, he laid on both chances for Maddison and Vardy when they hit the post as well, didn't he? And I thought he got really well involved. Like you said, we just need to see it on a more consistent basis, which I guess you could probably say about pretty much all of our attacking players apart from Vardy at the minute, couldn't you? They need to demonstrate it repeatedly. But I mean, obviously it is an important result. It's sort of stopped the rut a little bit. Obviously we've got a chance to go again on Thursday. But looking at the table, obviously that's left us in fourth. The table sort of starting to take shape, I think, as 11 games have gone, so teams are settling into where they are at the season. Most of the big six are where you'd expect them. They are in the top 6, apart from obviously Arsenal languishing all the way down in 15th. Do you think that the table will end up something like it is now, or do you think that Arsenal are going to come back, or Leicester going to fall away? What are your predictions on that?
I think the table is starting to shape up quite nicely. Like, I think there's a few teams sort of clinging on to that top six that will eventually fall away. People like West Ham, Southampton, Palace, etc. But I do see like the current top six is we're nicely positioned, and I'd be very surprised if we finish above Man City, who've had for them quite a slow start to the season, but I think we can be in and amongst it this year. You touch on Arsenal, I just don't see them coming even close to us, really. I think they are really bad. Like, at the minute, they're a bit of a joke team. They've won 4 matches so far out of 11. They've scored 10 goals. Only 3 teams have scored less than them. None of their players look interested or like they care. And I said to you guys the other day, I don't think any of them would currently start for us if we played our current system.
That's a big claim. Chris, you disagreed at the time? Are you still sticking to that?
Well, I mean, it's hard to disagree. I'm looking at the table now. It's sort of alarming, isn't it? He was on 11 matches played, and they are 15th in between Leeds and Brighton. But the only player I queried was Thomas Partey, wasn't he? Who obviously got rushed back yesterday, went off injured. So it goes to show like how dependent Arsenal already are on one player, similar to what I guess we were towards maybe the end of last season. So I'd argue that Partey could probably. Well, especially if you're talking about Mendy or whoever plays alongside Ndidi, there's an argument that Partey could potentially be invited into our team, because I feel he's a bit more of a ball-carrying midfielder, someone Ed was referring to, someone who can defend but also pushes play forward. I mean, obviously it's a hypothetical. That's not really a move that's probably going to happen, especially not this season. But nonetheless, yeah, Arsenal are a joke. Do I see them how the table's going to end up? I'm not confident about our chances of top 4 in particular, just purely based on last season, and then elements of our game that we're really struggling with this season, even like consistency. I think Tottenham and Liverpool, both had big performances yesterday. Chelsea, who, are improving, still got a young team there. And obviously, the rest of the teams, Man City, can't really discount them. But again, they're sort of almost struggling to score goals this season, well, so far. And then teams like us, Man United, well, they sort of got like Everton and Wolves who were up there recently. It's just about consistency to who can break into that top 4, that top 6, really. But for me, I think it's going to be a tight league season this year. I don't think it's going to be a runaway leader, but there's just something about Spurs and Mourinho, isn't there? I feel like once they get something going, Mourinho's winning mentality, he knows how to get teams over the line. The amount of assists and goals that Son and Kane are putting together, they've just got that recipe, haven't they? I'd hate Spurs to win the league, but I just think they're going to be there or thereabouts. And then anything below them and Liverpool is who can be consistent.
I mean, I was going to ask, do you think that Spurs are legit title contenders this year, or are they simply on a good run of form? How do you view them as contenders to City and Liverpool?
They're scoring goals and they're not.
They've already beat Man City, haven't they? To 0.
They just play.
True.
If you ask Mourinho and he used to answer honestly, I don't think he could ask them to play much better. You'd say someone like Højbjerg, you'd look at him and go, that's a really uninspiring signing. But Mourinho was obviously looking for a player who fit that mould, like someone who's not attractive. He's not a world class player, but he breaks up play so well. He does the dirty work. But yeah, like you say, Mourinho, that's his game down to a T. Saturate all the pressure and hit teams on the break with probably the best counter-attacking sort of lineup you've got in the league, really. So, I mean,
their last 3 league games have been Man City, Chelsea, and Arsenal, and they've not conceded, and they've scored 4 in the process. So, at the minute, I think it's very hard to see us in the top 4 unless we have a wonder season, purely because Man City and Liverpool will be there. I think Chelsea despite quite a slow start to the season, they're looking like they're going to be there as well. And I think if Spurs continue this form, then they've probably got enough to finish above us. So I see us more as like battling out for at best sort of 4th, 5th, 6th with the likes of Man U. We'll talk about Arsenal. I don't think they will come near us. But an interesting question is, I know a lot of people talk about wanting a backup striker in a similar mold to Vardy, like a nice pacey one. So maybe we should consider a January move for Aubameyang, just like a nice backup option, rotation. What do you think?
And everyone listening to this, just tag Arsenal Fan TV and just clip them this exact moment. Cause
no, I think he'd like the chance to, have a shot at European football next year. I think that's what he needs at this stage in his career. Just a chance of, a team that might create some goals. I think he'd like that. Just to play in some big games against some good teams and have a good vibe around the place. I think it's something he'd really benefit from. So,
we'll take that as your personal invitation to Pierre-Emerick.
I think he'd jump at the chance. You can learn a lot from Vardy. Maybe in a few years time, we'll be able to step up, and Vardy will be like, this is your chance now, Pierre.
If Maddison's still listening at this point, maybe can you just send this over to Pierre? Let him know that there's a backup slot waiting. Ed thinks it could really develop him. So that's great. Chris, at this point, are we going to have to do that thing where you disclaim saying, "Oh, these views are Ed's and not ours"? Or
I think he's made it very clear that's from the heart. That is.
I think it would be a good move for everyone involved.
There's only one striker I want who's in the top 4.
Oh, here we go. Go on then. Do your quick ode to Giroud.
Oh, Giroud, what a player. He is like a fine wine, isn't he? A beautiful man, and on and off the pitch, it seems. Now he's a... You can't argue that, and that is heartfelt. Get him in the team. He lacks pace, but he's brimming in class.
I mean, you can't really disagree, can you? He's scored 5 in his last 2. Not a hair out of place when he was doing it. So yeah, tick. I think he'd be excellent. I can imagine that the money would be fairly. Or something.
Yeah, okay. Get a hot girl around the office or something.
Straight slot with Slimani. There you go. Done deal.
Oh, the mystery man. What happened to him being the saviour?
His comeback was short-lived.
I'd like to see a sprint between Slimani and Giroud.
I don't think we've got the time.
I'd like to see Chris in that sprint as well.
Would you back yourself?
Well, no, this is a discussion. Like me and Ed often debate how fast are slow Premier League footballers. Say you did line up against Slimani, would he just burn us for pace, or does he just look slow on TV, or is he still going to be faster?
The original debate was shows how long we've been having this. We were arguing whether we would beat Mertesacker in a race, who was famously slow, and I stand by still that I don't think we would. These are like proper athletes, and
the one which I've always said is Wes Morgan. Because I know he gets a lot of abuse, and I know that he had made a bit of a joke about it, didn't he, last year, about the fact people call him slow. I reckon he absolutely burns everyone outside of professional sport.
You wouldn't want to take him on at a dad's race at Sports Day, would you?
Probably get injured.
What, me or him?
Both of you.
I am notoriously injury prone. I mean, I do fancy myself. I think I'm not the slowest man around, but I still think
you on record said that Schmeichel looked like he was running through treacle.
He did.
Yeah, he's a keeper. Who would win in a race out of Morgan and Schmeichel?
Chuck Danny Ward in for good measure, because he's surely carrying a bit too much timber for a professional footballer.
He's been eating the treacle.
Oh, come on! You know the players listen to this.
Oh, that's it.
Bad name in our,
We're going to lose listeners from the players. I don't want that. Right. Listen, let's move on before we
lose listeners.
Yeah, well, 5 of you that are still listening, hi, how you doing? Thanks for sticking around. Right, we're just going to quickly preview the
Richard
Athens
Enriquez.
game. Yeah, he is. What a guy! Did really enjoy that tweet actually, because the ends of these things are nonsense. He is absolutely spot on.
As are the starts.
As of the start, middle, and most of the preview. Right. So look, let's try and do something mildly useful. Chris, the very disappointing result against Zoria last week. Obviously, a late goal game that we really expected to win. I think we were all rather confident, weren't we? But we still have our destiny in our own hands. Chance to bounce back immediately against Athens. Are you feeling confident? Leicester favourites again?
I think so. I think it's weird, isn't it? In Europe or in Europa League in particular, I feel like home advantage. I don't get why it's such a big thing. Maybe it's because of the different climates that you face, or purely the pitch or the facilities of the ground. I just think that we're at home. There's no excuses in regards to the temperature being too cold or the pitch not being even or anything. It's perfect. Let us play our game, and I think it'll really unsettle Athens. I think the Greek leagues, it's what, championship at best probably, and we'll dominate possession, we'll create chances. It's just how many we can put away. But I've said it for Zoria, but I can see why it's different going to freezing cold Ukraine. But at home, this should be 3 or 4-0 for me.
That's fairly emphatic. Ed, are you equally as confident? You might as well put your prediction on the end of this as well.
Yeah, well, I'll put it on the end of this. Well, to be honest, I didn't even watch the other game, the European game, so I have no idea how it went. But losing is obviously disappointing. This one's at home, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're not going to lose. And they're not very good. So based on this, we're going to win 2-0.
Again, fairly emphatic. I mean, we are obviously favourites to win the game. It goes without saying that we'll be disappointed if we don't. I think I'll give you 3-0 as well. I think there'll be a lot of rotation. You'll see a fair few players coming in. I think the likes of Barnes and Under, hope they start. It'd be great to see us play 4 at the back, even though that's unlikely. But you never know. But Ed, just quickly, because you seem like the sort of man that would understand this with the implications for the draw and where it matters where you finish. How important is it that Leicester top the group?
Very important.
Please go on.
All right, I just thought that's what you wanted. Obviously, the next round's easier if you get a weaker team, but I've just been looking at the teams who could drop in from the Champions League. There's a lot of big teams, are currently in third spot in their Champions League groups, and I'm sure we'd love, just for the spectacle, like a fixture against someone like Real Madrid. Who else? I don't know. Leipzig,
Ajax,
people like that. But they're games that we wouldn't be expected to win, and the whole journey could be over sort of before it started. So whilst we obviously, if we want to win this competition, eventually we'll have to play some big boys, but I suspect that at least for the first couple of knockout rounds, we'll at least want to play teams that we think we should beat. Think about the Champions League run, like drawing a team like Sevilla in the knockout rounds was great, because it wasn't a guaranteed, should I say, for those who aren't au fait with the Gary lingo. Sevilla, that's a great draw, because it's like a good team, but they aren't necessarily going to steamroll us. But the actual run in the Champions League, I don't think it would have been as enjoyable if in the first round knockout we played Atletico and then they just knocked us out.
Let me give you some teams who are likely to finish second in the Europa League, because it's we should beat them, but still, you got Leverkusen, Benfica, PSV, Real Sociedad, who are flying in La Liga, AC Milan. These Europa coming tops. It's far from a guarantee as well. So it's going to be a tough draw, I feel, either way.
Yeah, I mean, like Ed says, there are some big clubs. We've just had a quick scan down the table. I mean, it's likely that one of Real or Inter could be dropping down. You've got like Salzburg, Porto through Ajax, and then randoms like Club Brugge and
Could be Marseille. Marseille or Olympiacos.
So yeah, it is obviously quite important, and we've got to put ourselves in the best possible position. We hope that we can get a few players back for then as well. Should be able to manage the squad a bit better. So let's wait and see on that one. We have managed to do this fairly quickly. We've flown through it. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Nice World Cup draw later on. It's always an exciting one to look out for from an English or any other country's point of view, I guess.
What draw?
World Cup qualifying groups.
Oh, right. Didn't know that.
That is knowledge.
Are we in the best group?
Thinking, top draw, top seeded.
So these are just like a bit of a free-for-all, aren't they? Like, England really should be beating just about everyone in qualifying, so it's not really that interesting.
No, well, by the time our 3 listeners listen, it's probably done anyway. So.
Yeah, tweet us. Let us know who we drew. First one to do it wins our undying admiration. Right, I think that's all from me then. I've got anything else to add. Chris, anything from you?
No, we've come in ahead of schedule. We set it for a 2:00 finish. Not that means a lot for our listeners.
Let's do our prediction for the next round of Premier League fixtures.
Yeah. Oh, come attention to last game while we're here.
What was that?
The inflection in the voice.
I actually said 2-1. Thank you very, very much.
Shall we just do this?
Shall we?
Sean Dyche and ended as a schoolgirl.
I've got range. What can I say? Okay, so Ed, you want to start? Obviously, I'm just trying to wrap my brains. Brighton at home. We haven't had the best run at home, have we, recently? So leave it. You can go first then, Edmund.
The score is, I'm just taking my time here whilst I load up Brighton's current form.
Well, they're playing tonight, so it's a tricky one to comment on recent, but it's going to be...
I'll
go tight.
Oh, they won 1 there, and then have they only won like 2 games this season?
I'll give you the lowdown. They have won 2 games this season. In their last 5 games before tonight, they've drawn 3, won 1, lost 1.
Right, so they're going to lose to us, and it's going to be 3-0.
Jesus.
I think closer than that.
You say that, but I remember when I said we'd score 4 against Braga, and everyone was like, Jesus, yeah? Trust me here.
Just think we should break these teams down at him.
It's going to be a free-for-all, and it's going. Actually, minor point. We could have had that Sheffield United game over earlier. We hit the post twice, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if they go in, they have to open up, and then it's a free-for-all. But in this game anyway, I think I just don't rate them. Next.
Fair enough. Chris, I'm just going to say we're going to win 1-0. James Maddison's going to score because and we can't wait.
That'd really
love a top on underneath saying "fuck Chris."
Right, imagine how big his fine would be. What do you reckon if we reveal that? Is that a match? Does he get banned? Is that a red card?
Him and Vardy got booked. What did Maddison get booked for yesterday? Because it was around the same time, weren't it?
I don't know. I think Vardy's was obvious because he exploded the corner flag.
It was really good how it did explode, though, didn't it? Like, it wasn't like a snap; it was like combusted.
My dad was just shocked that the corner flag doesn't bend.
Well, he must have really gone into it with quite some vigour.
I think he was quite excited at the time. Right, should we leave it there? That seems like a good time to leave it. If anyone is still listening to this point, thank you again for sitting through it all. We appreciate it. You are a trooper. Right, we'll try and do this. We're becoming a bit more regular, so hopefully we'll be back again next week, and it'd be great to be talking about another win. So
you know what we should do? Then. I'm going to butt in now. You
have to finish it off then.
Okay. I think we should start advertising more for like viewers, listeners' questions on the podcast. We stopped doing that recently, but I quite like the random questions because we end up just talking about the same old crap. Be interesting just to get a complete curveball question that no one's ever thought about. And maybe,
Right, if you've got any curveball questions, send them in.
yeah, no, maybe we should have a rule like we're not allowed to look at the questions we've been sent in, other than Chris, who probably collates them. But like, we're not allowed to think about them until they're asked on the podcast, and we have to give like spur of the moment.
That's a good idea. Surprise questions, new feature starting next week.
Right, well, thanks for that debrief on there.
Well,
It's a good
this
idea.
is showing you what happens in the background when our minds, really go at it. We try and create this great content for all of our listeners.
Which you just described as being the same old crap about 30 seconds ago.
Wow, don't change your winning formula,
Right.
Some people like crap.
Anyway, Ed, you've got to wrap it up now. Go on then.
Okay, well, thank you for all of you weird people for listening this long on the podcast. I hope you have an enjoyable rest of the day, and we won't see you. You may hear from us next week, hopefully after a couple more wins in the football.